Hi, I'm Theo, and I work at the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence. Nice. So today I'm going to be talking about research-driven recruitment, hitting the target every time. So there's three core elements to this: evidence-based research, content, and channels. But first of all, let me take you on a journey back to the beginning of human evolution. So in the beginning, humans were hunters. We had little need for complex forms of communications. We considered ourselves at one with the plants, trees, and animals around us. But then we evolved. We became farmers. It is at this point that we elevated ourselves above the animals, the trees, and the plants around us to meet our own needs. We then developed the need to communicate outside of our four walls. And the way that we did this is through storytelling. And we utilized storytelling to send our messages far and wide. And why? For the progression of our communities, for trade, for the development of our communities. Then, we elevated ourselves even above our human counterparts. We fought. We fought for land, we fought for titles, we fought for freedom, and we fought because of egos. Then, space exploration. We communicated via satellite across the world. The world was expanding at a faster rate than we could have ever imagined, okay? And then, the internet exploded. So communication changed again. For the first time, communication had gone truly global, and it was expanding. But back here on the ground, we were experiencing the evolution of the revolution. On the streets at Cairo, for the first time, people were communicating what was happening via tweet across the world. So for all of us, we could experience exactly what was happening in that moment, in Cairo, in the streets, within seconds, within minutes. So this is really powerful, right? Because no longer did we have to wait to look at the news and take their viewpoint around what was going on. Actually, we could just look at Twitter and we could identify what was happening to human beings on the streets at that given moment. Even news channels were utilizing Twitter as a way to inform the way they were communicating with their audiences. Okay, the world was never going to be the same after this moment. However, it wasn't continuing this way. So next of all, we had scandal. News of the World, Cambridge Analytica closed their doors because of the way they accessed and used information and content, the way that they communicated with people. And actually, who's next? Facebook? The world has gone Trump crazy, I guess is the way to describe it, in the way that we mistrust the information that's being communicated with us now. We don't know what's true, what's fake news, what's real news, what can be news. We don't really know. We're disconnecting from what it is to access real information around what's happening at any given moment. So the reason why I mention all of this is because at the very beginning of human evolution, the way we were communicating was through storytelling. And that was actually to take our message far and wide. But now we've come full circle. Actually, what we're looking at is storytelling, and the growth of storytelling is happening again. But this time, it's not happening because actually we want to send our messages far and wide. That can happen. We can go on social media and send our message far and wide within a second. The trouble we're finding now is what we're trying to achieve is the ability to connect with our audiences, because there's so much volume and variety of information that actually we're finding it really hard to connect with the people that we want to speak to. So this is the reason why storytelling has come full circle. But there's another reason. Actually, it's ingrained in our psyche. It was at the beginning of human evolution. We buy into it. We believe in it. So when we're looking at fake news and we're thinking, how are our audiences going to understand and buy into what we're telling them? Well, it's through stories. And Insight Squared here have done some research, and they've utilized the data from LinkedIn. And what we see here from 2012 up until 2017 is These are marketeers who are defining themselves as storytellers. And you can see the significant growth here. So we've really got to change the way we approach this and the way that we engage with our audiences. But where it all starts? So it all starts with evidence-based research. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So evidence-based research should inform everything that you do within recruitment. Your content, your channels. If you do the right thing at accessing the information, the building blocks, getting all those disparate bits of data and information and putting them together to create a picture, a jigsaw puzzle, it should inform everything that you do. So I work for NICE, the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence. Ultimately, what we do is we provide evidence-based research that informs the health sector. So that if you're in a hospital and you're receiving treatment, the treatment that you receive, the drugs, the technology, is based on 2, 3, 4, 5 years of research our technical analysts have done. So these technical analysts are health economists, health-based researchers, systematic reviewers. So when I joined NICE, the first thing I wanted to know is what information is available to me to help me to understand the organization. Because I'm not a health-based technical analyst expert. So first of all, I looked at what information was available to me. So here is a good example. This is around the number of publications that we produce. It's not recruitment related. But by looking at the number of publications we produce, I could see that there was a real shift in terms of the skills required to do the jobs. So in the first 10 years of our existence, we had 4 core areas that our technical analysts were working in. Roll on, we've now got 14 in 2014, and that has increased even further. So what that's telling me is actually we're struggling to identify these people because not only do we need more of them, but actually the skills they require have evolved and changed. Yet we call them the same things, technical analysts. So this is why the company was struggling, this is why the organization was struggling to identify the talent it needed. But it just didn't exist in this area. It existed in other areas of the organization, like our digital function. So we can access data and information in a wide variety of areas. So across the globe now, there's useful data, there's useless data. And what we need to be able to do is get to grips around what data, what information is going to support and help us making the right decisions through that recruitment process. So first of all, I look within the organization. And this doesn't have to be around big, complex data. This is around data and information. This can be stuff that's on the back of sticky notes. This can be in people's brains. This can be in conversations. This can be anywhere within your organization, your finance data, your HR data. The reality is you need to go and identify some of those key bits of data and put them together. But don't focus across the whole organization always. What roles do you think you're going to struggle with and have a challenge with? But equally, externally, how are you going to extract data to inform what you should be doing? So we can look at LinkedIn, we can look at other social channels. You can even use Horsefly as an external third-party organization that can support you with talent market analytics. So if you've got the budget available, actually there's help there. But what I would say is this isn't complex. Little bits of information put together can be highly powerful. So one of the areas that I looked at straight away is we need these technical analysts. We were calling them technical analysts, which is the wrong term, first of all, but I had to bring some proof. What I started to do is nobody could tell me the differences between these technical analysts across the organization, but everybody was telling me they're different. So each team would say, no, we can't do recruitment together. No, it's not the same. We need different skills. What? How? And they couldn't be clear around what that was. So what I started to do is I started to do one-to-ones. I started to get working groups together, not just people from a particular area of the organization, but across the organization at different levels. Because what I wanted to do is I wanted to understand the business, first and foremost, but then I wanted to be able to communicate my ideas and my strategy so that it impacted both at the top of the organization, at the bottom, and they worked towards one another. So I started to build personas. I did this through surveys. So not only did I do the one-to-ones, the meetups, the working groups, but actually I just threw out surveys, 10 questions, put them together fairly simply. Here's 8 of the questions that would have been in it. You know, why are you here? What's your background? What do you think the culture is within NICE? Not what the corporate culture is, but what do you think as an individual? So first of all, it worked quite well. 10 questions, sent it out, got all the information back. I then got a bit cocky and thought, okay, we'll do this with our digital function. I'll get our comms team involved. We'll use SurveyMonkey, and we'll make this really complex. I had loads of open questions, open-ended questions. It took me months and months to get through all this information. So if you're going to survey your workforce to understand more around the teams, their environment, what they're interested in, then I'd suggest give some great consideration to open-ended questions and how many. That said, those open-ended questions later on in the process, and what we're talking around here is probably the early stages of EVP, employee value proposition and employer branding, and you can build this in your own segment, if not across the organization. So feel empowered as an individual to make this happen. But ultimately, what we're trying to achieve here is allowing the individuals to be able to get their voice out and so that we can target them in the most effective way. So as part of this process, and this is as part of speaking to these individuals, the one-to-one sessions, the surveys and everything else, I started to pick up keywords. So now whenever I sit with a hiring manager or I'm communicating with a hiring manager, at the beginning of the process, I ask them, what are the keywords associated with this role? But also, what influencers? And I'm not looking for influencers that influence them necessarily. It's the people we're trying to target, who are they likely to follow? And you don't have to say online, although that's where there's going to be great power, because ultimately, in the end, I was able to target the followers of these influencers online. So I know that our technical analysts, through the research that I've been doing, are likely to follow, in certain areas, Global Health Manchester University, Office of Health Economics University of Birmingham. These are niche channels, but you get 10 of these, you target their followers, job done. You don't need to go anywhere else. All that time spent sourcing, all that pain in the heartache, trying to identify these people, you've got one channel to go to straight away. And how did I know they were on the social channels? Because I asked them in the surveys, where are they hanging out? Where are they spending their time? So I've got reams and reams and reams of that information now, and I've segmented it by function, by skill set, by area. So I've got Excel spreadsheets that tells me all the different keywords. So I actually don't even need to speak to the hiring manager, although I do, because it helps. A lot of that information now I can literally pick up and go straight to promoting opportunities or content. But another simple thing that I did, because I wanted to, I had a battle within the organization that they felt our technical analysts were leaving pharmaceutical companies for more money. And I was like, okay, seems reasonable to me. So I said, well, let me go and understand if that's the case. So I went on LinkedIn and I looked at where our technical analysts had come from and where they go to. Simple. It's not that difficult. Any one of us can do it. And we don't have to think around a global organization. Why can't you do it in a single area like Manchester or a region, right? And start small first and start to inform and present that back to the organization. So what I found is actually they were inaccurate. And probably they like to think people were going to pharmaceutical companies for more money because that gave them a reason to push for more money, right? But the reality is they were coming from 3 key areas and leaving 3 key areas. Health consultancies, academia, and pharmaceutical companies, right? But the reality is we were taking as many people from pharmaceutical companies as we were losing. So this also started to inform our employee value proposition. People weren't leaving for money. People were leaving for other reasons, but people were joining us absolutely for other reasons that were not money. And this was really important and powerful later on in the journey. And I could also see that they weren't called technical analysts, which I could inform the organization. They were called researchers. They were called analysts, but not technical. Technical confuses it completely and caused us lots of problems. Pharmacists, health economists, systematic reviewers. Right now we know the people we're targeting and how we should sow these keywords into our content, which we do later on. So just quickly wanted to show you this, because this is, James Ellis has created this, and it was Recruiting Brain Food, Hung Lee, that shared it, that brought it to my attention. All I've done is put research in at the other end, because for me, you get the research right, it informs everything else that you do. So what you'll see here, which I find really important, is content, okay? So content at every stage, content is in there a couple of times, both from an active candidate and a passive candidate perspective. Now that content needs to be different, depending on what stage of the journey and who you're communicating with, but it is there. And it should be informed and guided by the evidence-based research that you do up front. So that leads us nicely onto content. So just to give you an example, this is simple, right? I'm identifying keywords. I'm sitting down with people. I'm not talking to them about jobs specifically. I'm talking to them about themselves, their culture, the environment, keywords generally, where they think these people may be. And then I'm going out and doing my research externally to understand whether or not what they're telling me is true, whether I buy into it. But then the way I'm impacting that on the basis of our job adverts, our job copy, is this scientific advice director, they wanted to put this job out. And the keywords, stewardship, growth, business development, management, project delivery, governance. Now this is historic stuff. We're trying to get away from this, right, as an arm's length body. But when I sat down with people within the organization about this particular role, they were telling me it's around leading, future, creating, compelling, exciting, shared, driving future growth, newly established. Now, if you're a director, a senior director within an organization, and you read this advert, you are going to drive very different type of applications. And we're talking about simple keywords here. And this is just around understanding an individual who has a key impact within that role. But this is senior roles, all right? So they work very differently to our specialist technical roles. So for our technical roles, we couldn't change technical analyst. For love nor money at that time, I'm struggling. So if I can't change technical analyst, and that is wrong, by the way, so we disappear by using that term, what I can do is utilize the keywords that I now know are going to resonate with the types of people who want to apply for my jobs. So I just change the first line. Are you a proactive and enthusiastic health economist or researcher? Done. Anybody who's going to be interested in our role is going to understand what that means, right? So within that first line, it comes up in Google, it comes up in these different job channels. It's the first few lines they see, right? That's the decision they're making whether they're not going to click. What we used to have is nice, blah, 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 blah. Who cares, right? Who cares about nice? You're looking for a job. You want to know what that job is. You've got hundreds in front of you. What is going to make you click that button? And it needs to resonate. It needs to connect. But use Google Trends, you know. Go on Google Trends, Indeed Trends, to understand what people are putting in, what people are searching for when they're looking for your type of roles. But don't do this in isolation, okay? Because I'm a guy, okay? We recruit a lot of women, which is fantastic. But the reality is, if I'm running off and changing all the job copy, and I think I'm doing a great job because I'm putting all these wonderful keywords and I think it's going to convert people, well, it may convert people like me, but I may inadvertently be, you know, turning other people off, whoever they may be. So use things like text, Theo. You know, there's a cost associated, but if you batch everything up, you can use it all in the trial period. Alternatively, as you move on, you can use Job Grader, Gender Decoder, Hemingway app. There's loads of tools out there to support you with the content that you're putting in there and to ensure that you're not having any kind of biases that may inhibit the content that you're sending out. So this is what we've now done. We've gone one step further. We've used all that information that was difficult to get through, but ultimately this information, this content, these keywords have now started to inform everything that we're creating. You know, we're identifying that people have worked with turtles, you know, before coming to join. Nice, so that's interesting, right? We're going to get them to talk about that, their journey, why they're here, what they want to do. We've got Meet the Manager. We've got content, video content around the manager within that particular department, talking about their passions. And, you know, this is not just about the organization. You know, there's Alison in Las Vegas with a partner. So the important thing here is we didn't use an external agency to create this. We did all of this in-house. And ultimately, it came from all of the evidence-based research that was done up front. It informed us in the types of things that we should be talking about, that we should be communicating with our audiences. And this comes back to storytelling. You know, at the end of the day, we're competing with a volume of information and content out there. We've got to find a way to connect and resonate. And the only way we can be sure is by talking to people, understanding them, or extracting data and information that can help inform the direction that we should go in. So channels. The channels we use, I use ClickIQ broadly across the whole organization because I realized we weren't placing adverts in the right places, connecting with the right audiences. So rather than mess around, I just said, well, broadly, I want our jobs to go out on some of these channels, Indeed, Zoom, or whatever it may be, but I don't want to mess around with it. I want a piece of technology to decide when that advert is placed in front of a specific individual and at what time. And it's at the point that they're looking for a job, the type of job that we've got available at that time. So ClickIQ, programmatic advertising against job boards, basically, simply put. We use Vonk. So we use Vonk. We're about to go live with another campaign now. We use them because we've been out for developers 3 times in a 12-month period and not filled the jobs. Even worse, we've not filled any of our digital jobs that we've been out for in 12 months. We were going in this loop, this cycle of putting the same horrible job ads out and not actually kind of engaging with the right audience. So we did all the content, we put everything together, and we worked with Vonk. You know, they doubled the amount of applicants, and they doubled the amount of views. But also, we had other benefits that we'll see in a moment. But we also use Face, Twitter, and Instagram, and that's on the basis of the research. The people were telling me they were on there on Facebook groups and on Twitter groups, and that's why I'm targeting them. And that's why I put such an emphasis on influencers within the space, because I can target the followers, and I know the followers are the types of people we want to connect with. It's not always the case, though. You have to know your audience is on Twitter or Facebook, and in what shape or form they're on there, and how they like to engage on those social channels. So the results. During the digital campaign that we did with Vonk, we saw a 467.5% increase on page views. And this isn't an incredible page. This is bog standard stuff we've got here. And we saw average time on page up from 42 seconds to 1 minute 21. So we're currently running this campaign now, and this is the next digital campaign, and this is pre-going live across all the channels. So actually, this is not job-focused. This is content-focused, and this is meet the team. This video is about 1 minute 20 seconds. So simply put, for £37.87, and this is just on Facebook, we got 658 people to virtually watch the whole video, right? That's all right. But what's amazing about that is I know our audience is highly niche, and I used specific keywords and targeting criteria to make sure that we're not sending out everywhere. We're actually keeping that, we're keeping the lever quite low in terms of the amount of people we got the potential of connecting. But the really funny thing for me is that big line you see that's like falling off the edge of a cliff, that's where we haven't used subtitles. So we have on YouTube, but I've come to the campaign and I've got the original piece of video, but we've embedded on YouTube, so we've not been able to extract it. So that big drop there is where the other thousands of people who are watching our video for the first 15 seconds have dropped off because that first 15 seconds is nobody's talking. And the second people start to talk, we've had a huge drop-off. So next time, we're going to make sure subtitles are there. But that reassures me. For £37.87, we get 658. Imagine what we can achieve if we actually had subtitles. And we're just going to try and improve the way that we target people from here forward. So, you know, this never ends. And this is just one example of, we run these campaigns all the time. But Jen Prescott, who's an associate director within one of the departments, we went out to hire 9 technical analysts and advisors. And these are really difficult to get. Historically, you know, we've not been able to attract them. The technical advisors, we hired 3 of them. We hired 3, we only needed 2, we hired 3 because they were so surprised that we'd been able to achieve this. This is now the way that we're running campaigns. Ultimately, the proof's in the pudding. The hiring manager's happy, and we're being able to driving applicants that we've never been able to access before. And if you're thinking, well, you know, technical analysts or researchers, we've done exactly the same within our digital department. So this works no matter what department, no matter what organization you work for, but it comes back to your evidence, your information, your data that's going to inform the direction that you take. And that's me. So that's the whole lot. So if you'd like to learn more, I've done a Recruiting Future podcast. You can go and listen to it if you'd like to understand a bit more about it. It's around 5 episodes ago. Or Chat Talent, Evidence-Based Recruitment. I've written a whole blog, and feel free to go and have a look at it. Next, any questions?